Your birthday's the 29th.
Happy Herd Immunity Day, April 24th.
Oh, that's right. You got me a Hallmark card for that. That was really nice of you, Dan.
At least that's what Donald Luskin from Trend Macro, he's a market analyst. Happy Herd Immunity Day. 60% of the population above 18 has either had COVID already or has been vaccinated twice. We give no immunity credit to the millions of people who were infected but never diagnosed or who have natural T-cell immunity. No matter how you slice it, this is a great day. So why isn't anybody else celebrating other than Don Luskin? Well, because we don't have exactly a handle on when herd immunity is achieved. And we have, of course, rising cases in some of those lockdown states, even as cases in places like Texas and Florida have dropped precipitously. So it's not exactly clear, but his point is nonetheless well taken. This is where we're at, effectively herd immunity. And so it makes the decision by those lockdowner governors and politicos to baby step their way to reopening all the more curious, doesn't it? How long would you like to see Michigan Avenue boarded up? Permanently? Because that's about where we're at.
Yeah.
For more on all things COVID, well, all things related to COVID and the intersection of economics, pleased to be joined again by our friend Don Boudreaux, who is the he's an economist. He's also the co-director of the program on the American economy and globalization at the Mercatus Center at George Mason University, and you can also get his musings at Cafe Hayek, good blog I always like to reference. Don, thanks for joining us again. Appreciate it.
It's always a pleasure, Dan and Amy.
Did you celebrate Herd Immunity Day?
And what did you
wear?
I had the.
I didn't wear a mask.
There you go.
Yeah.
So Luskin is making a point that many people have been making for a long time, but now we're at the point where the combination of vaccinations and infections really does call the question of herd immunity. But more importantly, whether you want to argue about what's the magic percentage, the more pressing question is how can you continue to justify these lockdowner policies or even come over the top and make them permanent the way that Michigan and Oregon, for example, are talking about doing?
Yeah, it's crazy. The focus has been on this one risk, and people treat this one risk as if it's the only one worth treating. And if you focus on that one risk, well, then you're going to wind up with pretty perverse policies. COVID will always be around, just as all influenza or most influenza viruses remain around. We just learn to live with them. This has been going on for millions of years in our evolutionary past. There's no way we can go to zero COVID. There's no way we can remain locked down until COVID disappears and all risk of it goes literally to zero. But that seems to be the attitude that a lot of people, including our so-called leaders, have in mind. It's nuts.
Well, what about like the mask mandates outdoors? I mean, we have that in Illinois. It's despicable. But Dr. Fauci said, I think he was with Jim Acosta or Jake Tapper, one of those two, that, the CDC is going to come out with new guidelines. If you've been vaccinated twice, you can maybe be set free from a diaper on your face outdoors.
I forget which organization it was. I think it is the CDC that has already said something to the effect that, I don't know what the CDC said, so I don't want to speak out of school. We have evidence now that the risk of, and we've had it for a while, the risk of transmission outdoors is minuscule, very tiny. There's just no need to wear a mask outdoors. It's nuts. But we will not hear this from our esteemed leaders because the mask, as you suggest, it's a symbol. I think it's a symbol of enslavement. Actually, you wear the mask outdoors where it's not needed, and this shows that you have been bent on the anvil of the biosecurity state. That's how I view that.
Two great stories that came out almost concurrently over the weekend. One is vaccinated Americans will be able to travel to Europe as long as you've been vaccinated with a EU-approved vaccine. And then the State Department 80% of the world is unsafe for travel. Level 4 countries are do not travel countries, and they include France.
I know.
So, yes, you could travel, but we strongly discourage you from doing so.
Yeah, yeah. I think this is going to be one of the longest lasting and worse consequences of what's gone on in the past 14 months. And the world is going to become a much more closed off place. And so all the good effects of globalization and people learning about different cultures and integration that in my view promotes a more peaceful world, certainly promotes a more prosperous world, all of that is going to be rolled back substantially. So it's just very sad because people have shown that they can be thrown into hysterical flights of fear by the mainstream media and politicians playing up the dangers of one particular pathogen.
I mean, how did it get so out of control?
It's also bad for economic cooperation, like things like trading. And so, where voluntary exchange improves the outcome or improves the quality of life, improves the status of both people, when you have countries closing off and not trading with one another, then you have countries that are going to be worse off for the lack of being able to essentially leverage somebody else's comparative advantage.
Absolutely, and what I'm about to say, I think, is not over the top. We have a lot of empirical evidence over the past several decades that shows that the greater are the trading ties between the peoples of different countries, the less likely they are to get into a shooting war with each other. So to the extent that these fears and restrictions on trade and travel reduce the trading ties between peoples of different countries, it actually will, I think, increase the risk of shooting wars. I'm not guaranteeing it, of course. I hope I'm wrong, but it is a risk that we are raising, and no one pays attention to it.
And speaking of matters economic, what we're doing to ourselves, we don't need any assistance with, apparently, and that is just the continued printing of funny money. Call it COVID relief, call it infrastructure, newly defined, call it what you will, but it's trillions of dollars at the time. And again, as long as the market is up and you have some modern monetary theorists with economics degrees on CNBC saying it's fine, then everything's fine.
Yeah, it is crazy. And on top of that, Dan, we have the president now talking about gargantuan tax hikes on capital gains, and which is going to reduce, of course, the incentive to invest. The notion is that, I think these people think, we're going to raise the tax on capital gains. Capital is owned by rich people, and so rich people will pay more. You know what's going to happen? They're going to raise the capital gains tax rates on very rich people. They're not going to reduce their lifestyle. Jeff Bezos isn't going to reduce the amount he consumes. He's going to reduce the amount he has invested. And that's going to take capital out of the economy. That's going to give capital to the government, give resources to the government, which is going to waste those resources. And then there'll be less productive investment in the economy. When you have less productive investment in the economy, you get slower growth and slower wage growth and lower living standards over time. And so you put that on top of this mad spending spree and money creation spree, and it is a recipe for economic calamity for sure.
And I was having this conversation with a couple of friends yesterday too. Anybody who starts their argument or their policy prescription with a lie, you should probably be a little suspicious of. And the lie that the left tells is that you can tax the very rich, and that's going to make everything better. It's going to make everything more equal. It's going to reduce income inequality, and it can also fund all of these woozy dreams they have to manufacture utopia in this country. When in point of fact, as we know, if you liquidated all the assets of the billionaires in this country immediately today, you would fund the federal government for less than 6 months.
So something like that.
So what else do you got? And what else you got is the middle income families between $50,000 and $200,000 in household income. That's where all the money is. So where are politicians going to go, like Willie Sutton, where the money is? And if at least you started with that sort of honesty, ultimately 50 to 200,000 are going to get soaked in order to have things that we return to them and call free. then at least people can make a choice. But they're so addled by this demagoguery that at least, I don't know, half the population or 45% of the population believes these class envy fairy tales.
Yes, it's a shame, and the story's even worse than that. Or the consequences will be even worse than that, Dan. Even if we liquidate all those assets, and let's say it can pay for the government for 2 years rather than just half a year. What that means, of course, is that all the productive capital, the businesses, they're all liquidated. Where do people then go to work? Right? You just can't take. Jeff Bezos doesn't have a pile of money sitting under a mattress somewhere. It's invested in buildings and equipment and intellectual property. And the same is true for all wealthy people, and even moderately wealthy people. All the people who put into the economy the productive assets that are required for good jobs and for wage growth. All of that is put at risk by these confiscate the wealth of the rich crowd, which is, and it's hard for me actually to get my head around how they think the world works. It's a bizarre, childish view.
They run the scam again and again, and there's not real stout intellectual opposition to it. There's a compromise, so it makes it look like they were coming from a position of strength and propriety, and so things just continue to go in that direction. And then that's sort of the boiling the frog story. But if all of all this funny money washes through, let's say they get some compromise deal on the Green New Deal, and let's say they get something approaching the income tax and capital gains tax increases Biden wants. I mean, what you talk about economic calamity, can you provide some more definition there and a timeline, do you think?
I can't provide a timeline. The world's way too complicated, but what will happen, it depends upon, of course, the magnitude of what will happen. What will definitely happen, almost with any magnitude of the sort that they're speaking about, will be a noticed slowing down of economic growth. We'll get a slowing down of growth in real worker compensation. We'll get, the government debt, of course, is going to continue to rise. I think we're going to get inflation. I can't say when, but it certainly within the foreseeable future, these things will happen. We don't have to wait 5 years or 10 years for these bad consequences to arrive.
Have you been to the grocery store lately? I mean, everything is almost, it's a fourth higher than it was even last week.
Yeah.
It's amazing. I mean, when's this going to end when a loaf of bread is $30?
Yeah. And yet I still hear people say, oh, don't worry, inflation's not coming back. You don't have to worry about it. The Fed has it under control. Right. This is crazy. This is nuts. It's a law of arithmetic. You cannot create more purchasing power while keeping the amount of stuff to purchase low without causing prices to rise. It just can't happen. But people pretend. They want to believe in this magic, mysterious, bizarro world. And so they keep saying these things. And as Dan said, and I find this mysterious, but this part mysterious too, I don't understand why the opposition isn't more vocal. I don't understand why people aren't screaming out against this more heavily. The Wall Street Journal's editorial page says things, but the rest of the mainstream media, they're just right on board. It's not going to end well.
And so much of the Republican Party, I mean, they certainly don't have sort of a central thesis to their opposition. It's all sort of just decrying socialism, which is all well and good, but a little bit of explanation rather than just position taking would be helpful, I think.
Yeah, I mean, the American political right, particularly, and specifically the Republican Party, has really lost its way, and they've just forgotten what they knew, or what the people during the Reagan era, or even the George W. Bush era knew about the way the economy worked. It's all gone. Instead, we have people like Josh Hawley from Missouri, who he's content just to rail against elites and big business, and he gets a lot of attention for that. But this is really, it may be good politics, but it's terrible economics.
He is Don Boudreaux, American economist, author, professor, co-director of the program on the American economy and globalization at the Mercatus Center at George Mason University. Don, thanks for joining us. Appreciate it.
Oh, always a pleasure.
Thank you. And he joined us on our turnkey.pro answer line.
Hear about the big stories of the day, then talk about them right here on Chicago's Morning Answer on AM 560. The Answer.
The Lou Dobbs Financial Report is brought to you by Signature Bank, helping local businesses succeed. Visit signaturebank.bank for your commercial banking needs.
I'm Lou Dobbs. Gavin Newsom keeps digging a deeper hole for himself. Another black eye for labor unions, and Lloyd's of London pelted with lumps of coal from ecology activists. Those stories next.
Hi, this is Rhett Rasmussen of BestHotGrill.com. Gift giving occurs year-round, whether for birthdays, holidays, or a special expression of thanks to your best clients and customers. Of course, you want to show your love and gratitude, but you also want to give a gift that provides a positive image of you and your organization. Solaire infrared grills from BestHotGrill.com are both practical and unforgettable. Made in the USA, Solaire has a grill for most budgets, but more importantly, Solaire delivers the wow that everybody likes to receive in a gift. Impressive out of the box, and even more so in use, the Solaire infrared grills are the gift of value that will build relationships. With every great tasting, juicy meal enjoyed from their Solaire, they'll think of you. Step up your gift giving. Learn more about the amazing Solaire infrared grills at BestHotGrill.com. That's BestHotGrill.com. BestHotGrill.com.
California Governor Gavin Newsom, whose leftist policies of skyrocketing taxes and overregulation have driven companies like Toyota out of his state, now says he'll end fracking permits by 2024, and he plans to stop all oil and gas drilling by 2045. He may also want to change his state's official motto to going out of business. Another embarrassing black eye for big labor, this time at a General Motors plant in Mexico. Union officials were caught destroying negative ballots cast by workers in northern Mexico. Mexico's labor secretary says unions haven't gotten the message that they no longer control the workers. Lloyd's of London had lumps of coal bumped at its doorstep by activists calling the insurer climate criminals. Please join me 3 times each weekday for my updates from the Salem Radio Network, right here on this station. This is the Lou Dobbs Financial Report.
All right, you've probably seen the stories that some big box retailers are caving under pressure from progressives to take MyPillow products off their shelves. And by now, you've all heard me talk about MyPillow and how Mike has been at it again, this time introducing the MyPillow My Slippers. Mike has taken 2 years to develop on them. They're designed to wear indoors and outdoors all day long. My Slippers are made with MyPillow foam and impact gel to help prevent fatigue. Once you put them on, oh, you know why it took 2 years to develop. And they're made with quality leather suede. And for a limited time, Mike is offering 40% off his new My Slippers. You can show your support for this great American company by ordering. And don't let cancel culture win. Go to MyPillow.com and click on the radio listener square. There, you'll also find deep discounts on all MyPillow products, including the Giza Dream bed sheets, the MyPillow mattress topper, the MyPillow towel sets, all made right here in America. Or call 800-489-0201. Use promo code Amy.
This is Dennis Prager along with fellow host Mike Gallagher. We both want to invite you to join us for the trip of a lifetime to the Holy Land this October. I personally can't get enough of the great state of Israel and its historical significance. Join us to be amazed and inspired.
Dennis and I have planned out every minute of this trip in detail with Salem Media Group and our trusted travel partner, Inspiration Cruises and Tours. You'll have the best experience imaginable. We're confident by October our trip will be safe, so register today worry-free until July 6th with no cancellation fees.
We'll sail on the Sea of Galilee in boats that are replicas of the ones Jesus sailed in with his disciples. Experience unforgettable cuisine and join us for an authentic Sabbath service.
It's something you'll never forget. Go to standwithisraeltour.com to register or call 855-565-5519. That's standwithisraeltour.com. Book worry-free until July 6th.
If you purchase your own health insurance, I have some great news. From now until August 15th, the health insurance exchanges are open again. And even if you've never qualified for a health insurance subsidy before, you most likely will now. The American Rescue Plan, signed on March 11th, expanded subsidy eligibility to millions of Americans who have never qualified before, even to those with high income levels and especially those between the ages of 50 and 65. Those who qualify for unemployment benefits are now guaranteed the lowest priced plan. Employers who provide small group coverage also have new options, and so do seniors looking for Medicare supplement coverage. Call me. I can help.
If you're tired of calling a bureaucrat at an 800 number to help you navigate Obamacare, then you need a local expert on your side. Your own health insurance mentor, C. Stephen Tucker from healthinsurancementors.com, is someone I know and trust. He's a 25-year licensed broker who's been educating our listeners for 10 years. Tell them how they can get in touch with you, Steve.
Thanks, Dad. And they can visit healthinsurancementors.com or call me directly at 630-674-1551.
AM 560, The Answer.
Coming up on Chicago's Morning Answer.
The great divorce with China is upon us, writes Lieutenant Colonel Jim Carafano. We'll discuss with him at 7:07.
And a man whose name we should all say. We'll explain later. But now let's head into the newsroom. Here is Mike Scott. Good morning.